Joining me now, NBC Sam Brock, who's at Newark. Former air traffic controller S. Todd Yeary is here. Former communications director and spokesman for Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and former Dick Durbin staffer Michael Hardaway. And the Points Guy managing editor Clint Henderson. Todd, if I can, I want to play you the audio, at least some of it, from air traffic control in the middle of this incident.
I just got told that the approach lost all the radars. 3 of the 4 radar screens went black, and they have no frequencies. They want you to be advised that they may not be able to radar contact you because of the radar issues, and they may lose you on for certain times of when you're flying. They want you to be advised of all of that.
One other controller told a United pilot, and I'm quoting here, "We don't have radar, so I don't know where you are." You know what it's like to be in a position like that better than anyone. How scary and dangerous was this?
Well, it raises the stress level immediately. When equipment fails in the middle of what is otherwise a routine operation, it means that you have to begin to immediately mitigate the further exacerbation of the issues. What you have is a local controller at the airport advising pilots that there are ripple effects that are running through the system, starting with the approach controller, and that they should anticipate that what is normally the procedure is not what they're going to encounter. And so the backup procedures, what happens when you lose radio communications? What do you expect if you don't get that clearance 10 minutes after departure? How do we maintain this sense of anticipation, because the system is actually built around redundancies? But when you have 20% of the controller workforce leaving after an incident, which is not relatively uncommon, it doesn't happen often, but you're usually training for loss of radio, loss of radar. It says that the system has been stressed and the controllers are stressed because of excessive workloads, poor training pipeline. We're not getting new controllers fully certified. And so we have other issues that are complicating the air traffic control system in real time.
And I'll say most frequent flyers don't want an overly stressed out air traffic controller being, in charge of their flight. So, Clint, how much are you hearing from people? Are they afraid? Are they worried about flying right now?
Yeah, in fact, some of us at the Points Guy are no longer flying in and out of Newark because they're so concerned specifically about safety issues, let alone if your flight's going to be canceled or delayed. But there is some legitimate safety concerns here, especially after we saw incidents earlier this year at another crowded airspace, DCA. So yes, there's a lot of concern out there. Some folks are avoiding Newark.
So what do you say to people right now? I mean, not everyone has, we were talking about this, the luxury of, I have to go home for a family reunion. I've double booked. One's out of Newark, one's out of LaGuardia. Right. I'm able to sort of work the system because I have miles. But not everybody has that luxury. If they're already booked out of United and they're on a non-refundable ticket, what do you do?
So in this case, United Airlines has a waiver in place. So if you have a flight in or out of Newark until the 17th, you can rebook. It's not as generous as I would like it to be, but I would say to folks who maybe are flying...
So you can rebook for coming out of another airport?
Potentially, yes, exactly. They say LaGuardia or Philadelphia, they're letting you rebook, United specifically. But I would say call the airline. The airlines these days are being much more flexible than they used to be when it comes to this stuff. And that was sort of a byproduct of COVID. The airlines they want you to be safe. They want you to be happy and get on the next flight. So they will work with you in most cases. But if you're on a basic economy fare, if you're on a budget carrier, you may not have as much wiggle room. And, at some point you have to just bite the bullet and say, I'm not going to do this if I don't feel safe.
Sam, so what's it like at Newark right now, today?
So, Chris, I checked maybe 20 minutes ago to see how many cancellations there are at Newark. At the time, it was 112. So sort of an anecdote here. As you can hear someone screaming, literally that man over my shoulder just said, 3 hours. That is actually the average right now, according to the FAA, in real time. His reaction is probably emulating.
Did you pay that? Is that an actor that you paid to do that, Sam? That was unbelievable.
I don't know. I can understand why you would be a little skeptical that I staged that, but I promise you I did not. I will say this, though. I did check earlier. It was at 112. Then it was at 120. Then 5 minutes after that, 126. So at last check, there were 126 cancellations at Newark. That's about 20% of all the cancellations nationwide. There's 650 plus at the moment, Chris. And at the core of this issue, as we've been talking about, is staffing shortages with ATC. That was exacerbated by what happened last week. And we also mentioned that National Air Traffic Controllers Association coming out and saying that some of the employees already looking at this deficit decided to utilize the federal law that allows them to take time off when they undergo a traumatic experience. In this case, losing all radio communication. What you're left with is an even smaller pool. And you might be thinking, well, I don't know, why don't they try to move some of the controllers to Philadelphia TRACON to make up for that deficit? And the FAA spokesperson tells us they are trying to do that, but there's an issue there. They have to be acclimated with a specific airspace. That takes time. That can take a year and a half or more on average. That's what they're running up against right now. I want to also play for you a sample. Real quickly, this is the statement. The FAA is trying to move controllers to the Philadelphia TRACON area, but if there's no quick fix, in their words. I want to play for you a sample of some of what we've been hearing from passengers here in the last couple of days. Take a listen.
I was delayed getting in here on United, and I'm getting delayed getting out of here on JetBlue. I'm just a little annoyed because I've never been delayed so much in my life.
We found out when we were down in baggage claim.
And they said
that the flight, we looked at the United app and they said the flight had been canceled.
I can't believe that something like this could happen like this, you know what I mean? Better control.
Obviously, there's disbelief. You have a confluence of things going on. There's a runway right now in Newark, Chris, that is still under construction. The weather has been spotty. But the bottom line is investing in modernizing this system is critical, and certainly that includes the workforce as well. The Secretary of Transportation says they are planning, the federal government, on doing just that. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a matter of months. It's going to take years. And in the meantime, all these passengers are wondering, what am I supposed to do, especially if I'm flying out of Newark? So I'll defer to the experts on that. But that's where we stand right now.
All right. Thank you for that. An amazing bit of timing, I have to say, with the guy behind you. I hope he actually gets out at some point. Michael, there was a bruising op-ed about all this today in the Wall Street Journal, suggesting to the administration that rather than reordering the global trading system, President Trump should be focusing on fixing America's air traffic mess. I wonder, with the summer travel season coming, is this shaping up as a potential political hot potato?
It seems like Donald Trump and Republicans are committing political suicide. At the same time, you have two major things happening. You have a global trade war that Donald Trump has started that are going to drive up prices on everything we buy. And at the same time, you have the summer travel season starting soon, and everyone's flight's going to be delayed. I don't know if they enjoy this level of hatred from constituents, but it surely is coming this summer if Trump doesn't both fix this that's happening in Newark and figure out some way to back out of this trade war that's going to make everything cost so much more that we want to buy.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is, and just for full disclosure, Todd, I was on one of those flights. We made an emergency land. We did a bunch of Circle 8s, and then we went to Stewart, which is air base outside of New York City, outside of Newark, or quite a ways out. I want to play some of what Secretary Sean Duffy said about all of this last night.
Now, were planes going to crash? No, they have communication devices. They can see other air traffic like GPS in the airplanes. But it's a sign that we have a frail system in place, and it has to be fixed. But by the way, so there's delays now at Newark. Our primary goal is to make sure people are safe. And so when you have an incident like this, both lines now work, Laura, but when you have an incident like this, you want to make sure that people are safe. And so you just have less departures out of the airport until we feel comfortable and safe that the system isn't going to go down again.
What's it going to take to feel comfortable and safe? Because what I've been hearing from people who work on the inside is that this is a problem that's been going on for years and will take years to fix.
It has been going on for years. All we need to do is go back to the major disruption in 1981. We're coming up on 44 years in August since the PATCO strike. I was one of the inputs, or a member of one of the inputs, to hire and backfill for the controllers that were terminated. You have a number of us who have either passed retirement age, mandatory retirement age, or nearing it. And there hasn't been enough attention paid to making sure there was an adequate training pipeline already in place to offset attrition. Add to it the fact that I come from a controller family. Both of my parents were controllers. The equipment I started working on as a young adult was equipment I played on as a kid, going to work with my father as a child. And so there's been this kind of let's not really pay enough attention to it until we're really forced, that we've got to look at not just what's happening within the system, but what's happening within the appropriations process. Congress has to look at itself in the mirror and ask itself, why have we not done more to insist upon, through the oversight mechanisms of the Congress, to make sure that the federal agencies are doing what's necessary to keep the flying public safe? There's not enough that's been done there. There's not enough being talked about in that regard. And we've got to not just get the money in place, but we've got to use the tools that are necessary to mitigate until the more long-term fixes are actually implemented.
And Clint, let me ask you finally, a lot of people making plans for their summer vacations, and there had been some talk about maybe prices would be going down. If there are going to be fewer flights as a response to safety concerns, does that mean prices are going to go up?
Potentially out of Newark, but overall, airlines have not really reduced capacity for the summer travel season. We're starting to see cuts for the fall, but they are keeping capacity mostly where it was prior to the Trump administration taking office. So I wouldn't expect any big impact on that front. But I will say I am seeing anecdotal evidence, prices dropping for summer travel. There's less people who want to travel. There may be some really good deals out there this summer.
Wow. OK, that's good to know.
Yeah.
As Todd Yeary, Michael Hardaway, Clint Henderson, an important conversation. And thanks for having it, gentlemen. Appreciate you.